Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Fanis Papathanasiou, journalist with the Greek Public Television, and I'm very happy to be joined by Mr. George Burns, President and CEO of Eldorado Gold. Mr. Burns, welcome to Delphi, welcome to Greece.
Pleasure to be here again.
It's very interesting. We will discuss the latest developments in the global economy during these challenging times and possible applications in the mining industry. With trade wars and tariffs creating uncertainty, the mining industry faces challenges, technological challenges, political challenges, and I look forward to hearing how Eldorado Gold is handling these complex issues. So let me go straight to our first question. What's the impact of these tariffs to global economy and the mining industry?
Yeah, for the mining industry, I think it's a bit too early to tell. If these tariffs hold for any sustained period, definitely it'll impact our input costs. I mean, we're an industry that we're moving rock to get metals out of the ground to help society have all these wonderful things we have in our lives. And so there's a lot of money that goes into building infrastructure, into processing rocks to create the minerals we need to run a modern society. So in our case, what the implications are on our input costs, like everybody, we're not too sure yet. But if the tariffs hold in, there's no doubt our costs are going to go up. In terms of, what does the tariffs mean? My own view that the tariffs that have started are really the U.S. trying to make a change and disrupt the balance of trade. And from what I've read in the last 24, 48 hours, it's now being signaled that there'll be individual negotiations with each country. And to me, that tells me this will get calmed down, it will get resolved, and I think the sooner the better in terms of our business and certainty around our business.
So you think it's a matter of time, will be settled?
I do.
Okay, now, how could Canada and Europe work together and invest more in critical minerals during these changing political times?
Well, I think it's already begun with our investments. We're a Canadian company, and we've invested more than 2 billion euros already in the country. And I think our success will bring others. And, if you look at what the EU has recently done, say in the last year, there is a focus on trying to get certainty on mineral supply chain into the EU, and that means more investment, building more capacity within the EU, building relationships to secure metals for the EU, and I think there's a great opportunity here between Canada and the EU. Canada, I would say, is a much more mature mining industry. We have lots of companies across the country produce lots of metals, and in fact, I think it's one of the issues Trump's brought up is the focus that there are a lot of minerals north of the U.S. that they'd like to have security of supply. So, and I think the CETA that's being negotiated and hopefully will be implemented soon will open up more opportunity to share investment, to share technology and cooperation between the EU and Canada. So for us, I mean, we've been investing here in Greece for about 12 years. We have one mine running. We have a second mine that we expect to be in production in the first quarter of next year. And it's going to be a pretty significant change in our company's footprint, but it's going to be a massive impact on Greece and particularly the local communities where we're operating. And we're not done with this. We have other exploration projects. We have another development project in northern Greece that we're working on community consultation.
Can you tell us more? Where is that new mining industry in northern Greece?
Well, it's near Alexandroupolis. It's a development project where we're doing community consultations and working on permitting. And with success, we hope to have that mine in construction in the next couple of years. So that would be our third mine. And I think the opportunity for Greece is this is a country that has huge mineral wealth, and it's very underexplored. So the key to untap that potential to secure supply for the EU, to create high-paying jobs here in Greece, is through the exploration bit. So it's really getting exploration licenses opened up for companies to invest in drill and find ore bodies, and then work through the permitting and environmental controls to turn those exploration successes into mines. And so it can be an important part of developing a new economy for the country, high-paying jobs, taxes, royalties, and securing the minerals that are required to run society.
It is obvious that Greece doesn't have the experience in the mining industry. Canada has a long time experience. What Greece has to improve in order to have a better position in the mining industry?
Well, I think, again, the first thing is opening up the licenses for exploration. The second thing, there are good regulations here to enable companies to work through permitting, but they're bureaucratic and they're slow, and that becomes challenging. So I think it's looking at other countries within the EU that have more modern, more efficient processes for permitting, and then creating an environment where you attract foreign direct investment to build the mines once the exploration activities find the deposits. So there are massive opportunities in our industry. They don't move quickly. It roughly takes 5 to 10 years between getting an exploration license, drilling it, hopefully having success to find that economic ore body, and then it's about a 5-year process to go through the baseline studies to protect the environment, the permitting, and the construction.
Yeah, before we go more and talk more about Skouries, let me take you back to EU. The EU's 2026 budget focuses on being more independent. How are changing trade policies affecting Europe's supply chains? And if Europe is ready, Europe to make mining an important part of its industrial plan?
Well, I think for sure, if you look at the EU, there are a number of countries that have very mature mining industries, and so it's easy to turn to those countries and see how are they making that successful. And
can you give us some examples?
Well, Finland would be an example where there's a lot of mining activity in that country. In fact, we've brought in some expert miners from Finland that are helping us develop the Skouries underground. So it's a much more mature mining industry there, and so there's probably lessons to be learned. Canada, again, is a much more mature mining industry, so there's things that we can do to help modify the current regulations here to make them more efficient.
So, about the European Union, how are these changes in trade policies will affect Europe's supply chains?
Well, I think it's good news that the EU is focused on developing additional mines within the EU. They've identified a number of projects that they're going to focus on, and they've also identified Greece as strategically located, an area that's got great exploration potential, and can and I think will be an important part of that supply chain. So, and I think that's a big shift in the EU in general's thinking, is that you can't just sit back and assume you'll be able to get the metals you need for your society with this complex global situation we have. So I think they're making the right decisions. They're focused on infrastructure, investments, and incentives, and that's not completely transparent exactly how that's going to work, but I think it's really good news that they're focused on underpinning the things that are required to really control their own supply chain going forward.
What Eldorado Gold have seen as an opportunity in Greece and have invested in Greece compared to other European countries?
Well, I mean, it really, for us, it starts in the ground. You need to find the minerals, and the economics around those minerals need to be robust enough to justify the investment. So Skouries, as an example, is a high-quality resource reserve, and again, it's going to create a lot of value. So that's what attracted us to the country, is the mineral wealth and these particular deposits that we're developing. And as I say, I think the exploration potential here is extreme, and so the best thing the country can do is make it efficient, make the regulations and the environment where investors feel safe, that they'll make the investment and they'll get the reward at the end of the investment. And so, you know, we're happy where we're at today, but it hasn't been easy all along. We went through a period of high uncertainty. Skouries was roughly half built and had to be put on care and maintenance for 4 years. So those are the things that deter an attraction of investors. And so I think it's continuing what I've seen with this government is collaboration, cooperation to find ways to protect the environment, educate the communities, provide investment into the communities, so the wealth of the mining activities is shared with local communities and the federal government and Greece as a whole. And I think we're a prime example of success for others to look at.
What challenges and solutions have you seen in project like Skouries? And what have you learned from Skouries?
Yeah, so I joined Eldorado about a little over 8 years ago. And at the time, Skouries is an open pit, so we're excavating from the surface. There's an underground mine under it. We basically remove the economic minerals, we break them into roughly sand, and we float the minerals. And in our case, it's copper and gold. And copper is now a strategic mineral to the EU, so it's an important part of what the EU is trying to do. So we're a great example of the supply chain they're trying to create. Once we float those minerals, we then need further processing, and they get sent off. The material that doesn't have the metals in it is called tailings, and the tailings have to be deposited safely and protected for the future to protect the environment. So when I joined, Skouries was a slurry disposal, which meant it's ground up rock, barren of minerals, and water. And it takes up a lot of space to deposit those materials. We changed the design after I joined Eldorado to what we call dry stack. So we have a building under construction right now. It's roughly the size of a soccer field. It's 4 stories tall. And we take those tailings and we run them through great big filters. And these filters separate the water from the solid. And so we recycle the water now, which is good for the environment. And those solids then don't take as much space to be deposited in. So it was a great big improvement in the impacts that the project will have. And it's a big investment too. We're spending more than 100 million euros to build that filter facility that makes the footprint of the project better. So there's lots of examples like that. Maybe another one with technology. In our underground operations, we have diesel equipment, and so we need lots of fresh air to make the air safe for our workers that are underground. By moving to electrical equipment, you get rid of that issue. And so we're investing in battery electric trucks, and we're testing them in Canada right now with the hope and the belief that that technology will improve, and as we ramp up the underground at Skouries, we'll deploy these electric trucks rather than diesel equipment. So if we're successful with that, we need less air in the underground. We'll consume less electricity to make the same metal. So there are a lot of activities happening in the industry to make us, well, have less impact on the environment.
How the new technologies and AI and will change the industry, in the mining industry?
Well, another example of AI, and we've already deployed this at our Olympias underground mine here. When our employees go underground, they need fresh air. And so we ventilate by pushing air into the underground. Now, in the past, we push air throughout the entire underground. And there may be parts of the underground where there are no people. We don't need to be wasting energy to put air where it's not required. What we have now is our employees and every piece of equipment has a tracking device on it. And we have a computer, so we know where everything is underground. And so our ventilation system, we can not have air in that area because it's not required. You know, if you and I walked into a heading the computer would know we walked into that heading. It would speed up the fans and deliver the appropriate amount of air for us to be safe in that area of the mine. So technology is already being adapted in our industry to, again, enable lower costs, improve safety for our workers, and reduce impacts on the environment.
What will be the future with AI in the mining industry?
I mean, it's hard to predict how far this is going to go. You know, our training is an example. In the old days, you get a new employee, you do some classroom work, and then you put them on the equipment and you start training. Up at our operations, we now have virtual reality. So the operator's sitting in a chair like this, they have a TV screen in front of them, and they have the controls, and it literally feels like you're driving the truck. But you're not. You're sitting safely in an office. So they learn the skills in a very safe environment before we put them on the truck, where there's obviously risk, just like we have on the roadways. You need the right skills to be able to control that truck. So the technology is changing, but where it will ultimately go, I think it's going to go more and more automation, improvements in safety, reductions in cost, and there's a lot of people working on these technologies.
On a personal note, our generation has gone through a lot of technological transformations. How the AI transformation compared to if you compared AI with the other shifts in technology, what can you say about the scale, the speed, and the strategic implications that having in businesses in the world?
Well, I mean, I can talk to our industry. So the equipment that we operate, typically an operator controlled everything. Now we have a computer controlling it. So in our mines, we have to drill holes into the rock. So we'll have a bit, it'll cut and drill a hole, maybe a couple inches in diameter and maybe 10 meters long. Those drills now, the computer's doing everything. There is an operator there to kind of watch and monitor it, but the drill decides where to put it based on an engineer that designed the pattern for the drilling, and then it drills the hole, and it'll take quite a few holes to set up for a blast, but that technology is moving, and I think it'll continue to move where there'll be less and less risk and more automation to make it safer and lower cost. And you know, I don't know ultimately where it will end up, but I think it's heading in a good direction for our industry.
The mining industry compared to other industries, to what extent have been transformed in AI?
I would say we're a bit slower. So if you kind of just look at automobiles, you know, we've gone to electric cars pretty fast. We're just now starting to go to electric haul trucks in our industry, and we've got 45-ton full electric trucks. So they have a battery in the front of the truck, and basically they're hauling ore out of our Lamaque underground mine in Quebec, and they'll make one lap out of the underground back in. They go into a bay. There's a battery that's been charging while that truck was away. It automatically changes the battery, and then the truck can do another lap. So we kind of follow technology because the equipment that we operate is very expensive. So auto industry figured out how to do electric cars. Now we're starting to deploy those in our mines. And for us, it's better technology. The trucks that we have at Lamaque run about 50% faster up the ramp than the old diesel trucks that we were operating. So these technologies are not only safer, better, lower cost, but they're faster and more efficient. And so to answer your question, I think our industry, because of the cost, kind of follow what other industries do, and then we mock it up to the larger scale that we have to operate in.
Mm-hmm. How is Europe adapting the new transformation with AI compared to Canada?
Well, as I say, we have miners from Finland that are here helping us deploy the best available technologies for Skouries. So the underground stopes that we're mining at Skouries are going to be 60 meters tall. They're massive, and there's not many mines on the planet that are mining those largest stopes. So to do that, we need very accurate drills. The pattern's got to be tight. We can't have much overbreak so that we can cleanly mine those 60 meters. Then we backfill that opening with cement. So we take the tailings that went through the process facility that had no metals in it. We take those tailings, we mix it with water and cement, and we fill that hole back up with concrete. And then we mine right next to it. So we need those drills to be extremely accurate so that we're carving the ore and we're not remining that cement that we just put in the hole. So anyways, in Finland, they're, again, a much more mature mining industry, and they've got the technology, the equipment, and the expertise to do this. And so for our company, they're doing the development right now. We'll be training a Greek workforce to get those skills over the next 2-3 years. And the Finnish workers will go back home and we'll be able to then continue to mine with that better technology.
The Trump administration brought in the focus of the industry the critical minerals. How Eldorado Gold is following this strategic shift? Are you change strategic shifts because of this discussion with about the critical minerals?
For us at Eldorado, we're focused on 3 countries. So our head office is in Canada. We have one mine in Canada, and we have 5 exploration projects where we're trying to find our second mine. We're also in Turkey. We have 2 operating mines there. And again, 5 exploration projects looking for our third mine. And here in Greece, we have the Olympias mine running. We have our Skouries mine that'll be in production in the first quarter of next year. And we have our Parama Hill project in Thrace that's in permitting and community consultation, and we hope to have that permitted next year and in construction shortly thereafter. Beyond that, though, we have a number of exploration projects. Up near Olympias and Skouries and Halkidiki, we're currently drilling a copper-gold underground skarn. And it's early days, but we're hopeful that will turn into a development project and eventually a mine. And up near the Parama project we're working on, we have some really exciting exploration projects that we will probably start drilling next year.
How big project is this?
I mean, they're all various sizes. So we're invested more than 2 billion euros so far in the mine and the development project we have. The Parama project's about 430 million in investment to get that project into production. The exploration projects are tougher to tell because we haven't yet determined how big the ore body is, exactly how we're going to mine it. And so stay tuned. We'll figure that out.
In terms of infrastructure and transportation, what's the challenges you face here in Greece?
Well, I'll give you one example. The mining industry is criticized a lot about our environmental footprint, and I can tell you we have deployed the best available technology at Skouries. We have more than 500 points that we measure around our operations in Halkidiki. It includes air, water, dust, noise, vibration, and all this data is collected and put online so anybody could get onto our website and look at the controls we have in place and the impacts that are being managed. And so our industry is getting better and better at managing the controls in the environment and building trust with communities by being transparent on how we operate and how we're protecting the environment.
What is the next plan? Are you looking for other locations here in Greece?
Yeah, I mean, we're very interested in additional exploration licenses that we could then deploy our exploration activities to find new projects and new mines. So, and I think that's a big opportunity for the country is to get these licenses out and tendered. And I would say for the country, it's about finding other miners either within Greece or other foreign direct investors to be interested in bidding on these potential deposits and then investing their dollars to try to find the ore bodies and then develop them.
What's the process of this licensing program? Do you think it's going to be soon out?
The things we're hearing from the government is, yes, they're looking at getting these licenses out for tender so companies can bid on them. And so I'm not sure what the timeline is, but I'm hopeful in the next couple of years we can pick up some additional licenses and expand our exploration footprint.
Mr. Benz, thank you very much for this informative conversation and your valuable insights. Thank you so much for this and about the implications in the mining industry and the world economy. Thank you, really.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you all for the attention. Thank you.